DDG episode 56. My name is Dave Hunt, and I'm joined by Michael Swick.
How's it going, Dave? How's it going?
I'm all right. Been a pretty long week, but overall, not too bad. Getting ready for this holiday. Good and bad. Having people home and working retail in the holidays is always fun.
Whatever the hell this holiday even is this year.
Right.
Preparing for it. Getting the stores ready. Getting the families ready.
I still have a couple people in this house, and we just added my daughter back into the house. So I feel like if I shoved her in her bedroom and plexied the wall off, I'd probably get in trouble.
So that might be the smart thing to do.
So we are Digital Days Gaming. We are a weekly podcast that is covering all things gaming. Whatever platforms, multiple platforms, Switch, PC, Stadia, if it becomes a real thing, PlayStation, Xbox, all of the above. If something cool happens in the mobile world, we'll try to cover it. And we post every Thursday morning at 6 a.m. You can follow all of our social accounts in the show notes or on our website, digitaldaysgaming.com. And you can follow us on Twitch, twitch.tv/digitaldaysgaming, where we broadcast the show weekly. Typically it's Monday nights. Sometimes it's Sunday nights, but 90% of the time it's a Monday night. And like I said, the show posts on all your podcast feeds on Thursdays. If you're able to share the show and leave a review, that is greatly appreciated. It's been a little while since we got a review, so check to see if the service you use allows a review. And if it does, leave us a review. And then if you could, post it in the Facebook group or send it to us in a tweet so we can see that you posted the review. And that's always cool and helpful. All right, let's jump into the brief news. This is probably going to be a little bit of a shorter show, just because it's getting near a holiday break for in the U.S. with Thanksgiving coming up. So a lot of the PR companies are kind of half foot out the door. One of the guys that was emailing me from PR made a mistake and called something a random name, and he emailed me later, and he's like, "I'm sorry." He's like, "I'm just ready to be on break." And I'm like, I knew what you were talking about, so it's all good.
Yeah, combination of the holidays are coming up and also the fact that the new consoles are out and all the new games for the year are pretty much done except Cyberpunk. So there's nothing to play and nothing really to promote right now until the new year, which I don't even think we're going to have a busy first half of the year like we're used to having. Because, February, March, everyone's trying to get out their games right before the fiscal year ends. And I don't even think we're going to get anything crazy this year.
Far Cry ran away or pushed themselves out of February, which they dated it too soon anyways. But
yeah, and Rainbow Six pushed again. Yeah. So, yeah, and we're going to have a weird... Continuing the sequel to 2021 is going to be, kind of a mess the first probably half of the year. So, light news... The first one that I wanted to put up is The Last of Us. The show has been greenlit by HBO. This is being produced by Neil Druckmann and by the Chernobyl creator, the TV show, not the disaster, Craig Mazin, I believe is how you say his name. So HBO greenlit it. Back in March, they ordered development to begin. And whatever happened during the development, they like it, so it's going to go to series. So we'll probably get casting information relatively soon. They did lose the director, but it wouldn't be a Naughty Dog thing if they didn't lose the director.
Or a Sony movie, I guess.
Yeah. So originally they had a director already lined up who also worked with the co-creator on Chernobyl, but conflict of schedule thing, he had to pull out. So... this is happening, and it seems like it is going direct to series, at least as of right now. They haven't done a pilot yet. There has been no casting. A couple names have been thrown out for Joel that seem plausible. Some of the names being thrown out by Ellie, I don't think are realistic. I think there's not a lot of teenage actors known, so people just kind of pick the same three names for everything. So looks like this will move forward. We'll see what the casting's probably soon, because I think they want to get the show out end of 21 or early 22. Especially HBO needs something really bad right now because they haven't had anything since Game of Thrones.
Well, yeah, and then the other thing ties to that with what you're talking about is Wonder Woman 1984 is going to be on Christmas Day on HBO Max.
Yeah. So they're
going to start building some. So hopefully, I guess if anything, that they can. It's probably too soon, but if in terms of if they really wanted to grab a certain kind of audience or keep that subscription for HBO Max, if they could somehow figure out some way to get some kind of advertising in by Christmas Day for this, I think that would be something that might entice people to keep their subscription or to re-up the subscription, but that's probably unrealistic.
I think we'll get casting info maybe by Christmas,
yeah,
and
but
that's a way to promote the show.
Like trailer, like in the like right before you watch Wonder Woman, like there's a trailer or something. Like
it's way too soon for that.
Yeah, but even like a teaser kind of thing. But anyway, do you think that this with Druckmann working on it, like this will affect Naughty Dog's next gaming project at all?
Probably not. Producers aren't that hands-on with things. It might hurt a little bit, but they have other people that have worked with Druckmann on other games, so this probably won't hurt too bad.
Push Druckmann onto a game and have him help finish a game. They've always had to, like, I think the Last of Us 1, 2, Uncharted 2, 3, and 4, I think he's had a significant impact on. So their last 5 marquee games, or 5 games that they brought out in the last decade, he's had an impact on. And now is it the age-old thing of like, is it possible that they're trying to do too much? Because I love Naughty Dog, you love Naughty Dog, most of the gaming world loves Naughty Dog, and I say this with the utmost respect. They are due for a slight miss in a game soon, right?
I mean, technically they might be on it, but Bruce Staley, I think he's still with the company. He's like Druckmann's partner on a lot of stuff. He's still there.
I'm not saying anything is or isn't going to happen, but I mean, like, there's just those things of like concern me of like, are they going to point to like they're just trying to do too much, or similar to what they do with athletes, like, oh, like A-Rod, the reason why he can't like hit for average is because he's dating Jennifer Lopez, and it's like,
nah, actually, I looked up. Bruce Staley isn't with them anymore, but I don't think Naughty Dog's going to have that much of a say in the show. I think most likely what's going to be is like Druckmann will probably write the pilot, which is probably already done. They started to work on the show back in March, and he's had plenty of time probably since Last of Us launched to like work on all the scripts, which will then be cannibalized by HBO and turned into something different.
And it's supposed to just take place in the world, right? It's not supposed to have any direct connection to the games.
No, they haven't said yet, but it is Joe and Ellie as far as I know.
Right.
So it will be Joel and Ellie as the main story. Though I wouldn't mind if they just used the universe. But even then, if they were just going to use the universe, Joel and Ellie make The Last of Us matter. So
I just don't want somebody to watch the show and get spoiled on the game, or somebody that's a fan of the first game gets something spoiled in the show then because they haven't played the second game yet. That's more or less what I was wondering. And
with Last of Us 2, I don't think we have to worry about anyone being spoiled anymore.
Yeah.
I do want to know, will they pivot from the second one? Because I personally love the second one, but a lot of people didn't. So I wonder how they will handle future seasons. Because you can do Joe and Ellie's before you even get The Last of Us 2. You can do multiple seasons before you get to, the events of Last of Us 2. So I want to know what they'll do exactly with that, or if they'll just change it up completely. I mean, Game of Thrones book and
it'd be really cool to see more of that time that they spent in what was it, Jonestown or Johnstown or
I forget the name.
Yeah, the town in Wyoming.
The Washington one. Yeah. Wyoming.
Yeah, so because there was a significant there was enough for them to use as a television show time frame between the first and the second one.
They can space this out as long as they want. Though shows now seem to be going for like shorter seasons, but HBO's always been able to like give people the time they need, so they can really drag this out if they want to. And I'm sure getting like the show further away from the coronavirus 2020 parallels would probably benefit the show. So if they can like release this in like 2022, and then they can like probably drag it 3 seasons or 4 seasons before they get into The Last of Us Part 2 stuff.
Right.
They could have a good game, or they could see what happened in The Last of Us Part 2, and it's like, okay, let's start spinning Abby's story now, concurrent with Joe and Ellie's story from 1, and then just go from there and try that. HBO is usually pretty good with their shows. Game of Thrones last season withstanding. They need a hit. This could be it. So we'll see what happens. I like the idea that they're partnering with Druckmann, and they have the Chernobyl, which was a great show. They got those people behind it as well. So this could be successful, and we'll see. And it's going to be part of the streaming wars. So I'm assuming a ton of money is going to be thrown at it. The story we pulled up from Hollywood Reporter says this will probably be going up against the Showtime Halo series that is apparently airing end of next year, early 2022. Which would be funny. This HBO and Showtime basically getting into the console wars.
Yeah, this is obviously on the heels of I saw a bunch of reports today of a leaked store info about shocking a PS5 upgrade for The Last of Us that haven't. I mean, especially since the PS5 has been out for a couple of weeks, I haven't heard any discussion or talk about how Last of Us 2 is running. I also haven't really looked for it, so it'll be interesting.
It ran great on PS4. It just continues to run PS5.
Yeah, for sure.
Apparently the initial, because there's only one time you load in that game, and that's the initial load. Apparently some people said it's longer on the PS5, which I'm sure that's something that can just be worked out through a patch. But yeah, I would love to see what they can do with The Last of Us Part 2, enhanced edition or whatever they're going to do. Hopefully it's a free update though. All right. Next story, this one is some of our favorite stuff, is acquisitions. And THQ Nordic, who we were talking about how they just buy studios and IPs, release remasters, and that's their business plan, and it's very successful for them. They just acquired 13 studios last week, which is pretty crazy. Most of the studios, though, looked like they were artillery studios, studio support studios, and mobile studios. But some of the notable ones that I saw was Coffee Stain North, who do Satisfactory, popular PC game. I say that for Dave. Snapshot Games, who did Phoenix Point, which I don't remember that game being particularly good, but I remember it released on the Epic Store this summer, and it was usually on the front page every time you loaded the Epic Store. Zen Studios, so the Zen pinball people, which is a good studio to get just because they have their market and they cater to that market, and it's really successful for them.
And then THQ owns a ton of IPs now, so that opens up numerous possibilities for Zen to do some really cool stuff.
Yes, for sure. And then Flying Wild Hog, which is the developers from Shadow Warrior, who they've been making exclusively with Devolver Digital, and who also signed a contract with Focus Home Interactive to work on an IP, which in the PlayStation Lifestyle article I pulled up said they have no idea if that's going to affect exactly what that's going to do.
Well, it probably will
to that deal.
The contract's in effect. I mean, unless there's something in the contract of a buyout or a purchase of studios written in the contract, then they're going to have to abide by the contract unless one of the parties decides to split the contract. So.
Yeah, so those are the studios that I, at least by name, that I could recognize, and then the other ones again were a bunch of mobile developers and just support studios, and then he also bought a PR firm, which listeners might not be super interested in that, but me and Dave are. They bought Sandbox Strategies, which is a PR company that. I couldn't name you one specific game they worked on, but by the end of E3, I probably had 20 Sandbox Strategy business cards. They're one of those.
I feel I haven't read this story, but just looking at this, if you acquire 13 more studios on top of all the stuff that THQ's already acquired, I'm trying to say this as right as politically correct as I can. They bought staff.
Yeah.
They bought competent staff. They looked at their ability to public relations a game, and they feel like that studio was, or that company, not a studio, that company was established enough and worth a certain value to where they essentially purchased them to purchase their staff and their foundation that they built their PR firm on. So
yeah, and I think that can be said for some of these studios that are support studios, where THQ Nordic make their money off just remastering IPs that they buy. Best way to do that is to have studios that are capable of just doing that.
Yeah.
Not necessary studios that are creating their own like super interesting IPs. Competent studios that can do the work required to remaster a game.
And it could obviously be something as simple as that studio does really good top-down asymmetrical lighting. So we want that because we're going to do a whole bunch of games that are going to have top-down asymmetrical lighting. So we need their ability. And at this point in time, THQ just needs to take every studio that they own and just put it under like one thing.
Because like THQ is like, do you mean like just having like
it just needs to be called THQ Studios? Like, like, I don't want to see, in 2 years, I don't want to see Flying Wild Hogs owned by THQ making
who
game,
is owned
blah,
by
blah.
Embracer.
Yeah, like it's just
media.
Rename like Sony kind of is doing it, and Xbox is kind of doing it as well, where it's Xbox Studios presents Naughty Dog Uncharted. Or sorry, that's a really bad thing to put together. But, Sony Studios presents Naughty Dog Uncharted 4 or whatever. Versus now it's going to be like THQ. I guess I just don't feel like THQ carries the same clout as like Xbox Studios or Sony Studios or PlayStation Studios or EA carries. I feel like sometimes we'll hear of a game, even from EA, we'll hear of a game. It'll say EA presents, and then it'll say the game name. They'll show the trailer, and then we find out at the end like who's producing the game. And I think that's going to be kind of like, I hope that's what THQ is planning to do of this, like of where the studio, it's more THQ is doing this, not one of their 30 to 40 studios they own now. I mean, I don't even know.
Yeah, so like I pulled up the Wikipedia page for them. Not counting the 13 they picked up today, because I guess they can't officially count it because this is $100 million deal, so that takes a while. Let me just pull up one,
Same
2,
reason
3,
we don't
4,
have any
5.
direct answers about what Bethesda is or isn't doing.
They have 15 studios as of before this deal, so now they're up to 28 studios, and they're all of different sizes, and that's not including all the IP they've been buying like crazy. So they have like a small army of studios, and I wouldn't say the most impressive IP library,
right?
But they have a decent IP library of stuff that they can probably squeeze some more money out of before they're going to have to produce like sequels to the games that they've acquired. I feel like this is the sort of deal that like THQ Nordic might just be making these type of deals to gather all these IPs and studios because they know, I didn't put it in the story this week. Just because it's too vague. Jim Ryan of Sony says that he will have news on a Game Pass competitor potentially in the future, which could mean anything. But you have a catalog war potentially happening with Stadia, PlayStation, and Xbox with Game Pass. So I'm wondering if a THQ Nordic is like buying up all these studios because now they can have a library to sell, kind of how movie studios work, where
or like what EA just did with EA Access and Game Pass.
Yeah, where it's just like, oh, we could just have all this content and then just license it out to the highest bidder because those bidders are going to want to build and fluff their library with all this content. So, like, even if they don't produce any sequels from this, they now have a library that they can just kind of work off of just like, hey, Microsoft or Stadia or PlayStation, you want your library to have 100 extra games, you have to cut a deal with us for who knows how much money, and then it's basically like free money from them. When you're just collecting, royalties basically without having to do work. That's something that they can do.
For sure.
But they're acquiring stuff at such a clip, though. It always worries me. Like if this company goes out of business or runs into financial trouble,
which
there's thousands of jobs that are basically. Yes, or at least the name has.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is just one of those crazy business deals, and we'll maybe see something come from it eventually. But we'll see how that goes. Anything to add to this?
No, it's interesting of like, we're starting to get to the point where there's like 5 or 6 studios that are gonna own all the stuff.
Yeah, it's getting crazy to
I mean,
where if
you're
one of
looking at, yeah,
these,
Microsoft, Sony, Ubi, EA, Activision, um, and then I guess list THQ Nordic next, right?
yeah, Nintendo, but Nintendo does the thing that you like them to do, where Nintendo, you don't know about the studios Nintendo owns because once
Right.
they acquire them, they're just Nintendo.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah. I just think it
we,
makes it
we
easy.
know
It makes it more clear. Like, it's I don't know. I feel like when Nintendo when Nintendo puts their name on something and they produce something, you're not getting a piece of crap.
yeah, it very much is helpful to knowing what exactly you're getting
They play it
with
safe, but if you're
Nintendo
buying Donkey Kong or Mario or Zelda, you're getting a solid piece of video game content.
for sure.
So
All
there's
right,
other ones, so please don't hate me if I didn't list something you like from Nintendo. I'm just using this as a broad example.
yeah, the Donkey Kong is kind of a random one.
Okay.
Yeah, old man. All right, so we're not doing our Game of the Year stuff until like mid-December, so we don't run into the issues that the Game Awards currently finds itself in, like missing most of the PS5 launch games. But Jeff Keighley's The Game Awards, which has become the marquee game award thing for the industry. Like this is, I
I
guess,
pay more attention to this for what's coming out next year than I do for the yearly recap that he does.
basically it just turns into trailers, which I'm wondering how that is going to be affected since everyone just did their own events this entire year. But I'm expecting there'll be something for it. But yeah, the Game Awards released their nominees. A common theme in the game or in the categories is it feels like the same like 5 games are in like every single category. But is there a specific category you want to hear about, Dave? Before we get into like their big one.
Not really, because I can almost. There's been a lot of discussion on social media the last couple of days of like where 2020's ranking in terms of a video game year, and they're kind of starting to compare it to like 2018 and 2013, and I just don't feel that. Like Last of Us is great, Animal Crossing is great, Ghost of Tsushima is great, Final Fantasy remake is a remake. Doom Eternal, like those are some of the stuff you have listed under Game of the Year, along with Hades in there. Like I've heard really good things about Hades from you and from other people, but I just don't feel like, I haven't played Ghost yet. I haven't played Spider-Man or Miles Morales. Granted, that both Spider-Man came out 2 years ago, Miles Morales just came out. Other than the only game that I felt that I had to play this year was Last of Us. Like that, I was
Yeah.
like, I have to play it, and I have to play it now. And so that pretty much solidifies what I think is a top tier game. Like there wasn't another God of War, and I know that we talked about it last week, but there wasn't like, and I maybe again maybe my mind will change when I play Spider-Man, and I am planning to do that through the holidays. There isn't like a story crazy moment that happens in Spider-Man that people are like that happens in Last of Us that people are dying to talk to somebody about. Like, where are you in the game? Because I want to talk about something, and they're like, oh shoot, you're not far enough. So they go to find somebody else. Like the only game that carried that weight so far has been Last of Us. I think Cyberpunk could carry that weight. But obviously that's coming out too late for the Game Awards. But it doesn't mean that it's still not going to carry some significant weight in the video game industry. But the same thing was going on with God of War, and and I kind of felt the same way about Horizon, and I think that's kind of like the reason why I haven't like delved too deep into Horizon or some of the stuff I've heard about Halo the last couple of years, like, or Gears. Like these are games that have really cool mechanics, really cool gameplay, but the story narrative isn't there like it is in Last of Us Part 2 and God of War.
Yeah, no, 2020 overall, which we'll do a whole episode recapping the year later this year or early next year. It wasn't a huge year for gaming, regardless of like COVID or not. But because it was a new console coming out, there's always issues when there's new consoles coming out because no one wants to developers have to decide whether they want to release on the old consoles or just wait for the new consoles to be established. So going into 2020, we knew it wasn't going to be like a gigantic year for gaming. We had our marquee titles. We knew The Last of Us was coming out. We knew Animal Crossing was coming out. We knew Ghost of Tsushima was coming out, and Final Fantasy VII, which Final Fantasy VII I forgot came out earlier this year, but this has just been a really long year.
Yeah. It's because it
so
came out before COVID, or like right at the beginning of COVID.
Yeah, so it's a weird year because we knew there wasn't a lot of stuff and the stuff that's there. I think this list, so the Game of the Year list you went through earlier is The Last of Us Part 2 for Game of the Year, Animal Crossing New Horizons, Hades, Ghost of Tsushima, Final Fantasy VII Remake, and Doom Eternal. And the reason I say Doom Eternal last is because Doom Eternal sticks out like a sore thumb on this list because I haven't played Doom Eternal, but my friends that loved the first Doom wouldn't shut up about Doom. Doom Eternal came out and they stopped talking about it like the weekend after the game came out. So I don't know if that was just
feel the same way about Ghosts. Ghost had about a 4 or 5 day run that was being talked about on the internet, and the number one feature from Ghost of Tsushima was look how pretty the skybox is, and I'm like,
yeah, Ghost feels like one of those games. I haven't played it. It's on my list. I'm going to play it this week, actually, because I have nothing else on the PS5 to play. Ghost seems like it's here because it is a good game that came from PlayStation. So it has the hype and it has like the sales that go along with being like in a PlayStation exclusive. So that's why it ends up on this list.
Yeah, I feel like if we'd gotten a Gears or a Halo, it would have been on this list automatically.
Yeah, it would have been on this list automatically, and they would have taken one of the PlayStation games off just so they can have...
And that game that they would have taken off would have been Ghosts.
Yeah, Ghost or Doom Eternal. I think Doom Eternal would probably have been taken off first. Or it would have been like internal debate at the Game Awards with like what gets removed.
Yeah, this is like a heavy 4 and light 2. And everybody that listens to this knows my feeling on remakes. Like, this is why I'm hearing great things about Demon Souls again, but from the Demon Souls people, but I don't consider Demon Souls to be new and innovative. It's not. So
and I think if Demon Souls had come out earlier this year, or the PS5 would have came out earlier this year, Demon Souls probably would have replaced Doom Eternal or Ghost.
Agreed. Yeah, I think it would have replaced Doom Eternal. Yeah.
Yeah, because Sekiro won Game of the Year last year from the Game Awards.
Yep.
So Demon Souls probably would have made this list, and we would have probably had the list have 3 PlayStation exclusives. You know, Ghost, Last of Us,
but I also think if Cyberpunk would have came out when it was supposed to, it'd be on this list.
Yeah, and that would have probably knocked out Ghost. If we were going to tier this list, which guess what? We're going to tier this list right now. I think The Last of Us, just on the mind space that it took over this year, whether you loved it or hate it, it was the most talked about game, is number 1. Animal Crossing would probably be number 2, just because it was the feel-good game that 2020 needed.
It's Nintendo. It's Nintendo's heavy hitter. Hades is what I agree with you, is probably Hades 3. And Ghost are probably very close. Yeah. And Hades is getting more
word of mouth, and it's the indie darling.
Yeah, it's getting more backwind push right now. Like, you're going to hear a lot of people that, like, a lot of these big companies, like, the IGNs and the GameSpots and these other, like, they go on holiday break. Like, you're going to start seeing, like, Tuesday, Wednesday, like before they would, a lot of the people that live in California would go home. Hopefully they're not going home, but they'd come back east, and on their way back, like, this is where Hades would get huge clout because people would be playing this game on a plane.
Yes, yeah, it being a Switch title, it would have gotten a ton of love. So I think Hades is like number 3 on this list, followed by like Final Fantasy VII Remakes, because people really did love it, but I think it was kind of forgettable. Then it's Ghost, then it's Doom Eternal for this list. And it sounds like you're kind of close there. Maybe the last 3 can be swapped around.
Yeah.
Or not the last 3. That number 5 and 4 could probably be swapped around.
I think Final Fantasy, when this is all said and done, I think Final Fantasy VII will carry more votes than Ghost for Game of the Year.
Probably. I wish they would share that, but I don't think Jeff Keighley would share that because, like, he doesn't want to know how many people vote in, because these are the winner
percentages.
Yeah, they could probably do percentages, and Final Fantasy VII will probably edge out Ghost a little bit. I think Hades, because if I'm not mistaken, this is like a weighted thing. It's just like the NBA thing where it's like the fans get a say, but then whatever media body makes up the Game Awards also have a say. and what ultimately wins.
This isn't a slam dunk either. Animal Crossing is a real contender.
Yeah, Animal Crossing might win just because it's the feel good game that people wanted or needed this year.
Mm-hmm.
And The Last of Us is just very polarizing, so I could see The Last of Us losing to Animal Crossing just because people have strong feelings about The Last of Us. But I wouldn't sleep on Hades. The Game Awards never shies away from a surprise.
And that's what I'm saying is that I think
really
that you're going to see a lot of stuff about Hades over these next 10 days leading up to the Game Awards, because people are going to start looking at this list. Like, Keeley's show carries clout, and if somebody hasn't played a game, if like a game journalist hasn't played something on this list, like, they're going to be playing something because they want to make sure that they can have legitimate conversations and build content off of the Game Awards leading up to the show and leading after the show. Especially in a, like you said, in a time, in kind of a lull. Like, we've got new toys to play with, but we just don't really have the cool accessories to put on our action figures right now.
Yeah. And when you look at this list, it's like, I know what that IP is. I know what that IP is. I know what that IP is. What is this Hades game? Yeah. Why is this here? So that's going to carry clout. If you go through the list of like best game direction, best narrative, a common theme is Hades, The Last of Us, Ghost, and Final Fantasy VII. They're literally in like every single category, which I think is just a sign of just like how this wasn't like a super strong year for games.
Super diverse year.
Yeah. Or strong. But yeah, it wasn't a super like diverse year. There wasn't a ton of things to play this year. So when you go through the Game of Year awards, you will see all of these games in almost every single category. And it's like best performance, Miles Morales, Naji Jeter, he was actually nominated. So I'm surprised Miles isn't in more categories other than best performance. But I think to your point earlier, Miles is a great game. It's
Spider-Man is Spider-Man. People know the story of Miles Morales. They know if you pay attention to Spider-Man, you know the story of Peter Parker. You know the story of Miles Morales. You know, like Spider-Verse had a huge uptick last year, like in that movie, like Into the Spider-Verse, like that carried some significant weight in the social world. And there's not as much of. It sounds like I'm digging on it. I'm not digging on it, but Spider-Man is predictable. Like, yeah, they can.
It has the fault that we'll see sometimes with like movies when there's sequels, where when the first one's really good and then the sequel's really good, like there's not excitement because it did the thing it was supposed to do. Mm-hmm. It's like Spider-Man, OG Spider-Man, whatever you want to call it, Spider-Man 1, really good game, great game. Miles Morales, really good, great game. But it's just a lateral move. Right. It's like there was no dip in quality again, or anything.
Their Spider-Man is amazing, and at the same time, it's its own worst enemy because you can't just like, we're going to take Spider-Man to Chicago. We're going to take Spider-Man to Seattle. We're going to take him to England. Like that doesn't work. Like Assassin's Creed can kind of go where it wants. Far Cry can go where it wants. Uncharted can go where it wants. Last of Us can go where it wants, at least kind of within the U.S. right now, I would say. They could definitely write something in the story of like, hey, there's something kind of interesting happening in Minnesota, and then you go to Minnesota, and the story is how to get to Minnesota versus the first one, which was a cross-country trip from Boston to Wyoming. So there's a lot of things that, those games can do. Spider-Man, it's like you can't just... it's the same like a couple months ago when we talked about like the Avengers, like trying to make the Avengers into a looter. Like you can't put different you can't all of a sudden take away Captain America's shield and give him a weapon.
If anything, the Miles Morales suffered for just continuing to be a good game,
right?
Like that the previous one built. Other nominees in here, just like, again, I'm going through the list and it's just all Last of Us, Hades, Final Fantasy VII.
They're getting too many awards though. Like, and again, I'm an avid player of games as a service. I love them, but like best continuing support, I know like Destiny's on there. Like, there's just like too many. I feel like there's going to be like too many awards. Like, best person's left hand showed in a cutscene.
Well, I mean, honestly, if you look at it, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's like 6 esports categories alone.
Right.
in it, where it's like best esports host, best esports team, best esports game, best esports event, best esports coach, best esports athlete. And they're, I almost feel like you almost have to get rid of like the best indie category, because it almost is meaningless to be an indie game at this point, especially indie games are at such high quality. Hades is nominated for best indie game and game of the year.
After
where
the
it's just
company, it's getting to the point now. Like, can you really consider the company that produced Bastion and Transistor to still be an indie game? Like,
yeah, they are independent by name, but
Yeah.
they're working with higher quality.
But then, and again, I don't mean to tie it to this, but people don't consider Destiny to be an independent game. It is.
Yeah.
So
So technically, you probably could have fought for that if they wanted to.
But it's kind of like one of those things where you can't take a game that's like, it's the lines are getting so blurred. Like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, it was like, this is a really cool small indie title, and then these studios have evolved into what they have. Like, do you consider Bugsnax to be an indie game?
Technically, but it probably had Sony money involved, so you don't know. Yeah.
So it's like,
I mean, we know the real reason anyone watches these awards is for the trailers, for the next set of games.
Yep. What's coming out? What's being teased? This is where we saw the Xbox Series the first time last year. This is where Uncharted or Last of Us Part 2 was teased. Going all the way back, this is where Last of Us was first ever teased, when it was just a bug on a leaf.
Yeah, is that true? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll probably see something cool, hopefully. Maybe we'll get another look at like Halo. Maybe we'll get a tease for... This would be the place where if you wanted to do a Last of Us HBO tease, you probably could do it here, even if it's just whoever they cast as Joel, just with
Joel and
dirt
Druckmann
on his
walking,
face.
I would say Joel and Druckmann like walking on the stage, which isn't a viable option now this year. But Keeley having a virtual conversation with Neil Druckmann and whoever they're going to cast as the character for Joel, and saying, Last of Us television show is a thing. It's going to be on HBO, shooting for 2021.
Yeah, there's something you can do there. Maybe you can... I doubt Halo will be able to make its like reintroduction so soon, but they could do something there.
So like I said, I'll go with this. I'll say this now before Thanksgiving. Ratchet and Clank will be dated at this.
Yeah, Ratchet and Clank will be dated. We'll probably get another Horizon trailer, because I feel like they're getting ready to hype up Horizon more.
Halo will be dated as well.
That one is the one I want to agree with you, but I can totally see them.
Halo will be
after all
dated,
the
and it'll be
turmoil.
like April.
Okay, we're going with that. Yeah, I think Halo probably won't end up dated at all. I think Halo...
I'm just trying to think about what's coming out, like there, or what needs to be dated.
God of War trailer, maybe? All we got was a logo for the reveal for God of War. Maybe something...
If we see anything
like
for
that?
God of War, I think we just see an older Atreus.
Yeah, maybe that, or you see maybe Thor or something. You see something Ragnarok related. And then we'll probably get a Hellblade trailer or something for sure, because that's
soon,
early
right?
next year.
Okay.
Because we were surprised we didn't see a actual trailer for it during the last Xbox event. So we're due for something for Hellblade. Hey, maybe we'll get Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2. I doubt it, but maybe we will. But that's all I had for news. There wasn't a lot of crazy stuff. PSA. Cyberpunk
it's
is
apparently out in the wild.
It's out in the wild. People are playing it and streaming it and putting stuff on YouTube. So PSA, if you want to avoid spoilers, maybe mute Cyberpunk. It sucks that we have to do that every time, but the game went gold a while ago. It's probably already in the hands of retailers, or really close to being put in the hands of retailers. So we're going to see spoilers for this game relatively soon. And I think reviewers should be getting copies of the game in the next week or two as well. So just be on the lookout. If you're interested in Cyberpunk stuff, now is the time to mute it so you don't get any spoilers. So you can keep that experience fresh.
All right, so what we're planning on watching. So I had a pretty rough week. I got short-term assigned on 3 nights of overnights at work. And during those 3 nights of overnights, I had to have a wisdom tooth pulled. So that kind of messed up a little bit of my schedule. And I am still needing to, like, I'm sitting here right now looking at my desk, which is a complete disaster, because I just wanted to like get the PlayStation hooked up and try that, and I need to clean some stuff up. So part of the reason I haven't, like I mentioned earlier, haven't started Spider-Man is because, like I mentioned last week, like, this is a game that I want to stream with you guys as the community. I want to play this game. It's old enough. Some of you guys want to check out the remastered version. I just saw, like, this week where, like, your saves are transferring over and trophies are popping, so it's essentially like a cross save game like back in the day. So there's tons of stuff going on with that, but I need, without it having an optical port, I either need to make a purchase or I need to sit here and tinker for like an hour or two just to get it right. And I just haven't
Which will probably involve me to make sure you don't break our podcasting setup.
Right. So, and my wife is a huge help for that, because, like, it's in terms of the way that my desk functions right now, it's very much helpful for somebody to be sitting, looking at all the screens and looking at OBS and looking at what's working and what's not working while I'm back there messing around, instead of like plugging something in, turning around to my desk, sitting down, seeing if it works, going back, messing with it. So that is, there is a lot of chaos amongst my organization of how this podcast actually works and functions, and how I'm able to stream and talk to my friends on PSN. Like, all of those things are very important to me, and I don't want to have like a headset microphone in front of my face, a regular microphone in front of my face, and I try to make things look as crisp and clean, as smooth as possible, and to the point of where it agitates me if it's not working the same way. So that's where a lot of that has come from. So when that happens and I get into that kind of mode, I play Destiny. And Beyond Light is solid. Like I said, Stasis, the campaign was like a Stasis tutorial, and I was kind of a little bit meh on it, the whole thing, because Stasis is a cool new element. I'm very disappointed that we're almost 2 weeks out from the launch, and like I said, Stasis is ice, and it's been added as a new element in the game. So there's always been Solar, Arc, and Void, and this is added as a new element. And I have not, other than one exotic grenade launcher, I have not seen Stasis as an energy element in the game, like on a weapon. So like on an auto rifle, or on a pulse rifle, or on a shotgun. I was really hoping to see something like that, and I'm hoping that's something that they are going to bring out soon. They did have their world's first raid race when they launched the raid on Europa, which is the new destination in Destiny. The raid seemed to be to look really cool. The concept that they were implementing was a very interesting concept. The loot that's coming from the raid seems to be really chaseable. And then they're still building that evolving world that they're working on. So the outcome of the raid, the completion of the raid, triggers multiple more events in the world. Of you're starting to see, like, there's a whole concept of what happens in the raid is affecting Europa, and similar to they've been answering some questions and teasing some things and adding some things and adding some cool weapons and cool perks to the game. And as people are starting to mess with this stuff in the end game, they're starting to really see and enjoy what's happening. Bungie has kind of gone away from damage perks of like kill something and get a damage bonus, shoot, like do this and get a damage bonus. And now it's like, okay, like if you do this, it starts to increase the cooldowns of all of your abilities, or it can help, give you a speed boost, or it can help your teammates. And they've like slowly over multiple years, and then even now over the last 2 years, kind of as they've gone into more of their away from their contract with Activision. I don't know if it still would have been this way with Activision or not. They've really kind of gone into their MMO RPG style thing, where you can truly get a build and start looking at some things and seeing viabilities of all these different weapon types. So it's festering there, and there's a lot of, like, the game launched. I was talking to Michael about this before we started recording. The game launched, people were like, okay, there's the story. And then it kind of felt like it was kind of dry for a little bit. And then the raid came out. Over the last couple of days, it's gotten to where people are like, I really kind of want to check this raid out. I want to go in here and I want to experience these encounters and get some of this loot that's coming out of there that looks cool and has, and is functioning in the world well. And to see how they're going to evolve that Beyond Light campaign running parallel with the seasonal content that they're running, that again right now looks early on pretty lackluster in terms of the seasonal content. It's really fascinating to see how that works, and I just love that I have things to work on right now. Like that's the biggest thing, and I'm having fun. Like,
And your crew is playing, right?
there's a handful
crew?
there's a handful of people that are playing. I haven't been playing with a bunch. I haven't been playing with a whole lot of people recently. I do want to, again, with this raid looking like it's desirable. Like there's things coming from this raid that are desirable, which is the first time I kind of feel that way. There's always been like one or two weapons in each of the raids that are like, hey, that's really cool. I kind of want that. But these weapons appear to have some cool functionality to them, and the way that the game is having you get exotics is like they're kind of, I'm not saying that they're eliminating the random dropness of the game, but they've more pigeonholed it this time, and they've done a really good job of pigeonholing it. If you want an exotic helmet, you got to go do this thing, and it might drop, or you might have to do it once, or you might have to do it 9 times, but this is where that thing comes from. So at least you know, as you're continuously doing that thing, that sooner or later it should drop, versus, oh, you can go get that thing from doing 12 different other things that it might drop from. So I'm kind of liking that right now. Like there's exotic weapons that are tied to Empire hunts. There's exotic armor that's tied to legendary lost sectors. There's exotic quests that are given to you that take some time. Like, and again, like they're starting to get into the fun aspect of the game. There is swords in Destiny have always been good for a long time. There is a chainsaw style sword in this game now, and this thing does massive damage. Like, and it's fun. But you have to do a couple things to get it, and then it's not just one of these like click R2. Like there's a mechanic and a gameplay mechanic to executing this new exotic sword correctly. So it's fun. I do plan on hopefully streaming it again for some of you guys, and I am looking to try to do a regular raid group. Weekly, bi-weekly. Like I want to get 5 or 6. I would love to have 6 or 8 people that if somebody can't make it, we rotate somebody else in. If and try to run the raid again. Like I kind of want my, selfishly, I want my poker night back with my guys. Like I used to have a handful of them. Some of them moved on from the game. Some of them have moved on from me because I moved on from PS Nation, etc. But I would love to definitely see some of the core group come back.
Yeah. Anything else you've been playing or watching?
We've been watching, my wife and I started watching Queen's Gambit on Netflix.
Okay, yeah.
That can get a little interesting. I wouldn't say intense, but definitely there's a lot of thoughts that are going on in that game. And we've been watching like Man with a Plan. I have been playing Knack 2. I bought Knack 2 for Owen. And that was like $11 on PSN last week. So we've been looking at some of those, and again, like Knack 2 seems to be a solid evolution of Knack 1. There's some more gameplay mechanics. Yeah. He's doing okay with it. He still skips cutscenes like a little brat.
Yeah. And you're working on some headphones right now?
Yeah. So for the Xbox, Turtle Beach sent me some Stealth 700, the Gen 2s. I did the unboxing for the Stealth 600s. The cool thing about these is that they just work on both Xboxes, and they don't require a dongle. And these are very, very similar to the Stealth 600s that I did the unboxing for, the white headphones. But these are, the 700s are way, way more comfortable than the 600s in terms of like the ear cups and the way they feel. So I definitely think if you're looking at the 600s or the 700s, first of all, make sure you're looking at the Gen 2 version. I've had a couple questions messaged to me or just asked to me like on PlayStation of like what's the best, like I got my new console, I want some new headphones, and they're having a hard time getting the Pulse 3D ones. These Turtle Beach Gen 600 and 700s I think are fantastic. If you're budget conscious, get the 600s, you won't be disappointed. If you got the extra $50, get the 700s. I think you'll really like them. The Bluetooth functionality, I haven't tried it yet, but I believe I can actually have these 700 Gen 2s hooked up to my phone and my console at the same time.
Oh, so do you just switch between them?
I think I can listen to them at the same time. So I think I could, in theory, be listening to and I guess you can do this through the consoles now, but I could, in theory, I can't do this through the console, but I could answer a phone call and still hear my game. I believe I'll have to test that.
Yeah.
But I know that because there's no direct, it's like you push and hold the button on the headset, you push and hold the button on the Xbox console, and they just pair and they connect. So there's no dongle, which is great, which means there's something's not taking up a USB port. although you still have to charge them. So,
Mhm.
but I had them on for a couple hours today, so I've been very happy with them. And I'm still trying to do a little bit more. I might try to do some kind of video comparison of a group of headphones that I have. I would love to get that out for you guys before the holidays, but I can only compare and give you guys recommendations based on what I have. And I think Turtle Beach is doing some really, really good things this year. Some really cool things. We watched like some of the shows. I'm happy that it's November. I'm happy that some of the shows are coming back. Just the basic shows, like we watched NCIS, we watched SWAT, we watched All Rise. So my crime crap that Michael laughs at me as an old person about. So
Yeah. You're Columbo and whatnot.
Yeah. I want my Walker Texas Ranger back. Okay.
The slow motion action. Ugh, no. No one needs that. It'll probably get a sexy reboot in like 5 years. Take place in some like college or something.
I'm sure there's something else that we watched that I missed, but coming off of overnights and getting home at 7 or 8 in the morning and sleeping until 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and then trying to, get up and function and go back to work at 8 or 9 at night kind of messes with you. So
yeah. So for me, because we're in this little bit of lull, which is such a shame, we're already in like a lull. The new consoles came out like 2 weeks ago. My playlist has been Hades still, which I have a top 10 game of the year list because I like to keep one throughout the year. And every week, Hades, I've been moving that up closer and closer to where right now it's like number 2 in my list for game of the year. I beat it like 5 times, but the way they do this game's story is so brilliant that because it's a roguelike and, instead of telling you the story in just one run, there's reasons for you to keep playing the game over and over and over again because that's how you advance the story, the narrative. There is a god mode in the game that lets you, just breeze through the gameplay so you can just get the story, but I've just been just super into the challenges and leveling up my character. I have my run down to like 38 minutes so I could beat the game or, do a complete playthrough of the game in like 38 minutes, which my first time I beat the game, it was around like 50 minutes. So I'm slowly over time, like getting better and better at getting a faster run. So I want to see how short I can get that run or how quickly I can get through the game. And the gameplay just hasn't been tiring. I've ran through the game so many times and had so many attempts that failed, but I was fine with it just because I'm always like leveling up or like learning something new about the game or finding out story even through failures. So a lot of Hades, mostly because me and Sarah have been testing the backwards compatibility with the PS5, with PS4 games. So like we downloaded Skyrim just to see what the mods look like on that. It runs fine. We haven't ran into issues with mods. The load, it's fun on some of these RPGs that have long load times on PS4 to see them just load just a little bit quicker because these games are running in backwards compatibility mode and they're not built for the PS5. Mm-hmm. They're not loading like super crazy fast, but they are fast enough that we notice. Yeah. They're just fast enough or just faster that we notice like, oh, that only took like 20 seconds and not 45 seconds. So that's been nice. So like, tested out Skyrim. She's going through Dragon Age right now. I ended up picking up Kingdoms of Amalur: Re-Reckoning because that was on the Black Friday sale. Because that was a game that I remember when it came out, I had a GameFly account and I GameFlyed it as like a holdover game because the game I really wanted was not out for like 2 weeks. So I remember playing Kingdom of Amalur and never finishing it. So hopefully get through that.
I feel like the launch edition of that game had a pretty big bug in it. I had a couple people that I've communicated with that really liked that game, and then there was like a progression freeze that happened in that game. So
there is issues with it. I'm hoping,
and obviously it couldn't have been patched because by the time that the game came out, the studio was like done for.
So I'm pretty sure THQ would have fixed that hopefully. So running through that, I ended up picking up the Faded edition, which comes with like some DLC campaign addition to it, so we'll see that. I remembered nothing from that game, so rewatching the intro and stuff was just like I kind of vaguely remember this. still playing Astro's Playroom here and then. It's basically turned into that game that if I just want to.
You haven't platinum that thing yet?
No, because I'm lazy when it comes to platinums. It's just one of those things where it has a leaderboard, and I really like the PS5's notifications when it like tells you, hey, someone like good Dave Hunting beat your score in Astrobot, and then you click the PlayStation button when that notification comes on, and then it just sends you to the dashboard for Astro, and is like, here is the thing that Dave beat you on. You click it and you're in it a second later. Oh, that stuff is super good, and I can't wait to see other games that have leaderboard stuff attached to it.
People get annoyed by it, but when I turned my PS5 on today, I feel like there was an advertisement on my screen for Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, I don't like the Explorer icon is the first one.
I don't mind it, because I'm like, oh, what's this? You know, I think it's always kind of interesting. Like, just like
mine's been Fortnite for a week, so.
Oh, like this is the first time I noticed it, so.
Yeah. But I really like how the leaderboard stuff works with Astro. I just wish there was I also picked up Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, which is a very leaderboard intensive game, but it's a PS4 game, so it doesn't take advantage of any of the PS5 features. I would love for EA to patch this PS4 game to take advantage of some of those leaderboard issues, or do like some sort of upgrade path, because I want to be stuck doing leaderboard stuff, because I love doing that stuff. So then Spider-Man Miles Morales, just working on the New Game Plus, because you need that for the Platinum. And then I picked up Avengers, but I can't really talk about it because I'm not far enough past all the stuff I played in the beta, so there's like nothing really to say other than like, hey, it's less buggy than the beta was, but like my opinion hasn't changed because I'm just replaying the stuff that I played in the beta. And the beta, if I remember, was like a good 5 to 10 hours worth of content. So I'm like, haven't really got past.
We might have to line up our days off and see where we're at, and maybe you and I just play through that together.
Yeah, they just released Kate Bishop this week or next week, so it's like I'm interested to see all that stuff. I want to get through the single player campaign, because do I have to complete the single player campaign to do all the live games as a service stuff?
I don't think so. But you might actually have passed me at this point in time, because like I said, I was having fun with it for a little bit, then I just stopped. But I know that like you can, like as you complete like the story missions can go back and be played in co-op.
Okay.
And then any of that stuff that has matchmaking can be gone back, and the difficulties can be changed. But I also think that if we're close, I think that you and I could, if we wanted to, like work together on the same thing.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll probably I'm off tomorrow, so that's going to be the thing where I'm going to be playing a lot of Avengers, just because I want to see that single player campaign. Because I don't care if the games with as a service stuff was garbage, because I only cared about the single player campaign, which is why I waited for a sale for it to be $30. So that's it for playing. And then watching, the only thing of interest or new that I've been watching is the Animaniacs reboot on Hulu. I loved Animaniacs Tiny Toon Adventures when I was a kid. I liked it as Animaniacs. There's been a lot of cartoons from my childhood rebooted, like Rocko's Modern Life was rebooted for a movie, which was like okay but forgettable. Animaniacs, halfway through the reboot, it's pretty good. Like they do have some cringe, when they're trying to stay relevant with like their references, and sometimes it hits and it's like that was really funny, and other times you're like, oh, they maybe tried just a little too hard to like be relevant. But the songs have been good, and I've been mostly enjoying watching Animaniacs again. And the Pinky and the Brain stuff is just really good. Like watching it, I realized that as a kid, I was more interested in the Pinky and the Brain stuff than the actual Yakko, Wacko, and Dot.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff that people forget. Like even like looking at like Looney Tunes, people are like, oh, I just like Roadrunner and Coyote. Oh, so you like Looney Tunes? No, I like Roadrunner and Coyote. Like, well, it was on Looney Tunes.
Yeah, that's why when they announced that Tiny Toons was going to be rebooted, I was like going through it like, okay, what characters did I actually give a shit about?
Yeah.
So happy this stuff's being rebooted. Also kind of tired of stuff being rebooted. Animaniacs addresses that right away with a really good song about like how lazy reboots are, which of course they would reference that. But as just like a short thing to watch, It's not bad. Though the trying to still figure out, it's clearly like rated or like written for people my age that grew up with it, so it's definitely something like I don't think a kid can really get away
Yeah.
with. But watching old Animaniacs episodes, there's a lot of stuff that probably kids shouldn't have watched on Animaniacs, but they just were able to get away with so much stuff in the 90s with just like their
It's
adult
Animaniacs.
references.
It's fine. I can put Owen in front of it, and then 2 hours later,
Yeah,
Owen
yeah,
comes out and
yeah.
says some word. I'm like, what?
Yeah. He just just starts getting a little weird, and you're just like, wait, what? You learned that from the cartoon? I was surprised with some of the stuff Animaniacs did as like in their original run, because I went through a YouTube rabbit hole of like Animaniacs clips, and I'm just like, man, they really made weird ass references like that in a kids show. It's like, yep, they totally did, and I just never noticed it. But yeah, that's it for my my playing and watching.
All right. So like I said, this is probably gonna be a shorter show. You guys didn't send us any questions.
It's kind of my fault. I kind of solicited super late. I think
Yeah.
4 hours before we recorded.
But just like we don't necessarily have to solicit the questions, but I mean, if you guys think of something, just post it in the Facebook group, post it in the Discord. There's a subcategory in Discord, Ask Digital Days. You can send it to us on Twitter, Facebook, hell, PSN, whatever you want to do. Email it to us at podcast@digitaldaysgaming.com. But it's Thanksgiving week. I'm totally content with a short show. It doesn't seem to concern me. So you can follow us on the main account at Digital Days Pod, where you can send your Ask Digital Days questions. You can follow Michael at the first MJC. You can follow myself at Good Dave Hunt. You can, like I said, Facebook group, Discord, Twitch, YouTube. All those links are in the show notes. So please, if you haven't checked those out, go ahead and do that. That's always appreciated and helpful. If you have, please don't forget, we are a Twitch affiliate. If you want to use your Twitch subs on us, whether it's a paid sub or your Twitch Prime sub, those are always appreciated. You guys have done a fantastic job of that over the last couple of months, and that's always been appreciated. So if sometimes it doesn't auto renew, so just check and see if the sub button is lit up, or click on it. It'll tell you when it's ready to renew, or if it's able to be renewed. And if you do that, that is appreciated, as well as patreon.com/digitaldaysgaming, where there's the $1 tip jar, the $3 private Discord channel access, the $5 24-hour early access to the show, and the $7 monthly bonus episode. That we just, by the time you're listening to this on the feed, on our Patreon site is the November bonus episode, where we go through Thanksgiving and you find out more potatoes that Michael does not like.
Yes, pretty much all of them but fries, and also Black Friday stuff. If you want to hear
Thanksgiving,
some
Black
retail
Friday
stories.
We are still looking for suggestions for the monthly episode. We are always looking for extra patrons. If you feel that you needed to do that, again, it's just another way for you to support us. You do not have to feel obligated to support us on Patreon. If you do not have the financial means to do so, I do not want you to do so. Like the holidays are going on, weird stuff's happening in the world. We are the least of your concerns. We're fine. We're okay.
Yeah.
we can keep the lights on, as we're good. So, but if you felt so led to, that would always be appreciated of any kind of support. And that is all I have. You got anything else, Michael?
No, I'm just waiting for some Cyberpunk goodness to happen, and so I can have something to play on my PS5. Which, even though Cyberpunk will be a PS4 game.
All right. If you're listening to this Thanksgiving weekend, I hope you have a great holiday in the U.S. I hope that you have some safe online shopping experiences. If you need to go out in the store, please make sure you're wearing a mask. Please do your best to slow the spread if you can, and just make smart decisions. And there's nothing that's that desperately needed to be had for that price.
Yeah.
But please be considerate of others, and be nice to your family. And we will talk to you guys soon.
So yep, don't be a dick.